So in this episode, we're going to talk about 3D printing and just give a generic overview of what 3D printing is and some of the features and concepts behind it.
For printing a 3D part, what are the steps that you have to go through?
First off, finding or designing a part in a computer design program, so a computer-aided drafting program. There's also plentiful drawings out there, or three-dimensional models out there on sites such as Thingiverse, Umagine, Repables, and then you'll put that into your printer host software, and it will take that three-dimensional part and it will create two-dimensional layers. Those layers are sent into the printer as it goes through its print cycle, and what happens is that plastic comes in to the machine. It's pushed through just like a hot glue gun out of a hot nozzle that is moving on the bed, and it lays down a single layer before moving up to another layer and then printing it until you have a three-dimensional shape. We're going to take a little sneak peek underneath the hood. I pop these guys out. You'll see this is a piece of borosilicate glass. This is a printed circuit board and is a resistive heater. All these lines are basically the same as a resistive element on a stovetop. Underneath is a power supply. There's the control board on this unit's right here. Lots of wires and cables going to the different axes, and this is the main harness that travels up to the end effector, which is right here. This is the other end of it right here. The filament is fed through this tube into the hot end and is printed through the nozzle. This is a printed circuit board that has a bunch of LEDs on it. And in the middle here is the hot end, so that plastic comes through and is extruded out this nozzle, which is 0.35 millimeters in diameter, and it's laid onto the print surface. And inside this nozzle, they happen to have a few fans to add cooling to this insulator that is inside here, and also to the part below.
So those fans to the part below, that cools it so you can add the next layer?
It helps the layer set well, so it can add more plastic. If it's too molten, you can't make a good solid, but if it's a little molten, it's actually good, because then the layer that's being melted on top can have a better bond with the one below. Now you'll notice on here also, this is where the heater is. This cylinder is actually a heater element, and these are its power sources.
What are some of the materials that you can print with 3D printers?
Well, this type of printer and what's available to most consumers or hobbyists print plastic. There are other print types, or print filament types. I have a carbon fiber impregnated PLA filament. There are printers out there that do print metal, and there are a few different types, but one of the more prevalent types right now is a direct laser sintering, and it uses powdered metal and a laser that does the same thing as this printer does, except it's basically going through layer by layer and shooting a laser onto a powder, and it's sintering it together. So a lot of complex parts can be made like that. It's increasing in use in the aerospace industry in particular, because it allows for single body parts. So there's no welding or other seams or joints that can break. And the advantage with additive manufacturing, what 3D printing is additive manufacturing, is there are certain types of things you can't make without it, and they would require very, very time-intensive processes. There's a lot of improvement in medical industry, in particular. They've been using printers like this to create some nylon bone replacement parts.
Recently, what they're trying to do for kids that have the prosthetic limbs is they craft special ones, like they have a transformer arm or something like that. So each kid gets an individualized, not only to fit their arm, but to show their personality, and it kind of helps them with that. Right,
and you'll see that in a lot of cases, what you can do here and what you use on your computer, the cost or a lot of those things has come way down, and a lot of times it used to be the custom fitting and all of the time when there. Now a lot of volunteer groups are doing that, and you can have a prosthetic hand that can do some mobility for as little as $35–40, and that's really a great thing nowadays. So
And are most 3D printers in houses and building? Like, do companies own them? Are they in public spaces? Like, where are you?
They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
A printer like this, which is a really well-built printer, you can get for a little over $1,000 now. If this was 10 years ago, this might have cost $10,000. I don't know. Something of this equivalent quality. Some of the more industrial printers, tens of thousands of dollars still today.
And we've heard that some libraries actually have printers, and there are maker spaces that you can possibly join. If you have a part that you want to print, there are other avenues. You don't have to go necessarily to a company or buy your own printer.
Right. And there are other sites out there like Shapeways and some others that you can basically send the part to them and they'll print it and ship it back to you. Thanks for watching this episode of SciJoy. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We'll post a link to our 3D printed Fox file that we borrowed off Thingiverse. And
if you guys had a 3D printer, what would you print? Let us know either in the comments below, or you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, or Instagram. And remember, keep exploring.